Hello, my friends. Welcome to your seat at the table. I'm Rick. Of course, I got green and white mama laying back here on the table back here behaving herself. Every now and then, I'll run across videos of other channels because I'm always surfing YouTube during the day when I'm at work. Because a lot of times when I go somewhere, uh, I pop a manhole open, I throw the hose down, and then it might be 30, 40 minutes for the truck to pump the tank contents out. So I've got time to kill. That's what I spend my time doing. I also look for videos that will be 20 minutes to half an hour long so I can have them playing and listening to them while I'm driving from between customer locations or from the customer locations to the sewer plant to unload and back again, that kind of stuff. So I run across a video of this fellow boards something to something. I'm sorry, I don't remember right off the top of my head, but I will try to post a link to his channel. He's a very good YouTube creator, has a lot of good stuff, and for D&D related material. Anyway, he was doing a video or pending to do a video on Al-Qadim, the Arabian Adventures, and I had remembered this book being on the shelf. I could have sworn it was a box set back then, but like I said, this was in the 90s, and that's a long time ago. And I was told since then it was not a box set; it was just a standalone book. But I thought it was then this book must have. I thought it had a map that came with it, and it was packaged up like it was a box. But and I believe it was 97, produced for second edition. Uh, 92, produced in 1992 by TSR. And at the time, I was buying a lot of stuff anyway. I had quite a collection. If you've followed my channel, you've seen the hundreds and hundreds of game supplements that I have purchased. A lot of them were purchased in the mid 80s to the 2000 and 2002 ish era. And in the early 90s, I was between my ex-wife, my first marriage, and my second marriage, and I lived at my parents' house. So I probably spent an excess of 50% of my paycheck on a weekly basis buying material. That said, there was always so much stuff. There was always yet another thing that I had to be picky about even then when I was buying. So I would look at something and go, that's just not something I know anybody who'd want to play, or I'm just not quite interested in that, so I skipped it. So this would have been one of those products that I skipped. Then my interest in it renewed a little bit by watching his video, and so I got on Google and I Googled, just out of curiosity, and I found this copy for a pretty reasonable price at Noble Knight Games. And they only, according to their website, they only had two copies of it. They're both used, of course. And usually it's surprising because usually things like that nature, the prices go way up. And I think I only paid like $25, $24 for it. So, you know, brand new. Where's the new price here? It was $18 brand new, so I paid a little bit more than what it was new price for new to get it. But considering how old and kind of rare it is, it was reasonable. I expected in the $90 to $100 range and up because that's where a lot of stuff goes these days, and I wasn't about to shell out that kind of money for it because the odds of me ever running a campaign with it are pretty slim to zero. But there's always stuff to be tapped from these things because there's source material that you can apply ideas and feats and skills and other things that translate over into other settings and fill a niche. It's always nice to have. Plus, like I said, I'm a collector for no for any lack of a better word, without a doubt. An amateur historian, an amateur, game, a full time game enthusiast. But I just love this stuff and always like to expand what I have and my knowledge just a little bit more. And I can tell you, I have forgotten more stuff than I know, and that's without a doubt because it shows up every now and then when I try to do videos. Just like when I tried to tackle doing this one here, it's so damn big, so damn thick, and I only read through this once, and I'm bumbling and stumbling my way through the crappy video. So I acknowledge it's a crappy video, such that it is. So, Arabian Adventures is a conventional and exotic land of sultans, scimitars, genies, with its expansion into the AD&D second edition rules for intermediate to advanced players ages 10 and up. And I thought it was fun and interesting and worth the purchase. And looking, like I said, I've read through it once. I look forward to going back through it at my more leisure to really kind of get into more detail on it. It talks about the lands of fate, introduction. When I was a kid, we're talking 70s, early 80s. Some of these, like the Seven Voyages of Sinbad and its stop action claymation kind of uh, skeletons and other bag things, uh, the genre was kind of old by the time I was a kid. It was more from the 60s and 50s, and they're based on the novels and storybooks that came much earlier than that. I had was not a big avid reader of them of Arabian style stuff. I've watched many movies, many TV series over the decades that were based similar to it, and then of course Disney's cartoon stuff. I never got into those either, but they did their share. So you got Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, the Seven Voyages of Sinbad, Aladdin and his Magic Lamp. There are other classic fill the pages of Arabian Nights. Each story is told a very wise and beautiful young woman named Shrikamay, who reveals that the night after night to the king with a murderous heart, first of the 1,001 tales is her own, etc., etc. And so this kind of rose out of that foundation from Hollywood and from the novels, uh, probably the 1800s, a lot of them, late 1800s, early 1900s, right? So we have the land of fate and the peoples of Zakhara, and we got a map of it. You can find a version of this in Faerun and D&D's Faerun series, but they don't have an actual book on it. But there is like Orient Adventures kind of vibe to it. So it connects yet another potential fabled region that you can tap. In Faerun, the ancient kingdoms of Egypt, where Egypt and North Africa would be today in Faerun, uh, and I've done some videos on some of those. I think one book I had that covered a couple of them. And I talk about honor, family, the blood feuds, and we got purity, hospitality, the bond of salt. That in in the Song of Ice and Fire, the salt and bread uh, rite is such prevalent, but it comes from an ancient tradition from sharing your table with your. So if you have a guest, even if they're your most deadliest foe, and you break bread with them, you share your salt and bread at your table. They have the right to expect not to be murdered in their sleep while they're your guest, or the guest right. And it comes from several ancient traditions, be it in actuality. So it's not something he just pulled out of his butt and threw it in his novel. Piety, the fate of the Lord Giver, chapter 2 characters. We get into some new possible character classes for some more exotic, fun or exotic characters for your campaign. Warrior kits, wizard kits. The Asker, the Corsair, the Desert Rider. Proven station, making one's own station, a fixed station, losing station. Very important to that culture. What's in the name? Constructing a surname. Chapter 3 character kits. Right? So most of the kits are designed for natives occurrence, which are then recommended roles for new PCs. However, within each group, kits one that's recommended or one that's appropriate for foreigners: Outland Warrior, a Jami, a Seluk Outland Priest, all encompass characters that come from beyond the land of fate. So they leave an open window for that, right? The warrior kits, the Askar, most common warrior, Corsair, because the Corsair in the Arabian Nights feels much more than a pirate vibe. It's more of a swashbuckler pirate vibe. If you find it from that perspective, the Desert Rider, the Holy Warrior, the Ferris, the Maluk, or the Slave Warrior. I hate using that term because freaking YouTube doesn't like us throwing that term around. The Mercenary Barbarian, Outland Warrior. We get the wizard kits, the sorcerer, the elemental mage, The Shahir, which were legendary Shahirs, were tail spinners, advisors to desert chieftains, certainly much in the same way as Merlin advised Arthur in the Western legend. They are imbued with great wisdom and boasted the power to communicate with the desert's awesome spirits, the genies. Alien wizards, the rogue kits. Some beautiful color artwork in this book, without a doubt. Without a doubt, some beautiful color work. The Shalouk, or the scoundrel, the barber, as in the grooming barber, cut your hair, style your hair, make you look, very, very, better. Let's see. So the historical barbers that this kit is modeled perform more than just hair cutting and grooming. They're also served as doctors, surgeons of modest skill. Their talent with the blades accounted in part for this medical bent. Equally important, the barbers were well versed in the folk treatments and herbal medicines of the time. They learned of such things through long experience as well as by talking with their customers. Members of this kit are fonts of information, usually NPC or barbers. Like their predecessors, they gather much of their knowledge while practicing their trade at the bazaar. Often barbers can advise on one of the best course of action. Certainly they're eager to do so, but just as often they may recommend a course of action that could prove disastrous if followed, right? Just got to be careful with what kind of advice you take and how you heed it. The beggar thief, the holy slayer, i.e. assassin, the matrude, our desert thieves, outcasts from the tribe, shunned by former comrades, the merchant rogue, the rawwood, Raoons, are the bards of the desert tribe. Priest kits, circle of the faith, pragmatic, or pragmatist, the circle of the faith, ethical, the ethos, circle of the faith, moral, the moralist, the hakami, the wise woman, the kahin, or idol priest, the mystic, the outland priest, of course. Chapter 4, proficiencies. Once again, these are things that you can tap to use in your own campaigns. When somebody says, I want to have this thing, but it doesn't quite fit, anything that you already have, and it might serve this better. So we have awareness as a proficiency, begging as a proficiency, bureaucracy, debate, display weapon prowess. You got a character that likes to be flashy, wants to be flamboyant, i.e., like a swashbuckler likes to do, with being lots and lots of extra maneuvers and tricks with their weapons. Display weapon, right there, prowess. That's what you're looking for. Genie lore, grooming, i.e., making yourself and others look much, much better. Grooming is the ability to make another look his or her best with clean skin, well-trimmed hair, and a virtually unmarred complexion. The skill is usually the province of barbers. It takes about an hour, and after the patron patron gains a +2 bonus to all encounter reactions when dealing with the individual of his or her own race. All right, haggling, metalworking, riding horse specialization, and riding camel specialization, especially in the desert. Chapter 5, the pearls of adventuring, armor and fiery Zakara, desert survival, dehydration rules, the wind and sand, then calling upon the fates. How to call upon fate, fate's response, the evil eye, fate's response. It's always been a kind of one of them tricks that the good and not so good GMs will employ. Now the characters find themselves in a pinch; they're in a real bind, and they're life and death situation, and then suddenly, a piece of wall crumbles and you see a passage beyond, and there's your way to escape, or your weapon's destroyed or knocked out of your hand, and you're fumbling around as the beast is trying to come after you for the killing blow, and suddenly your fingers find a buried, the pommel of a buried weapon, of a buried sword, and thus you save yourself. And that's kind of the point of what the fates imply, but keeping in mind that they need to be coached in such a manner that the players still have to fight or have to utilize their wits to get out of the situation. Giving them the means to escape or the tool to defend themselves is just part of the challenge. Just saying that all of a sudden the beast suffers a heart attack and keels over. I mean, a lot of times in the early days, that's where we would have the use of the gods would intervene. Oh, the gods are fate. Kind of same scenario, right? Fate's response. And that's what they go in a little bit on talking about that. The evil eye for optional rules. Chapter 6 of the Bazaar, equipment lists. Once again, I always love these things because they expand your existing option for stuff. Right, because you're always going to find things in some of these that you don't see in the traditional D&D books. This one here, for example, daily food and lodgings, a huge whole section, additional stuff, household provisions and bulk goods, things that you might not think of until you're looking for somebody wants to go purchase some stuff or they need some stuff, or maybe, excuse me, you're trying to populate a merchant's caravan or a merchant's wagon or something like that, and it's too easy to just fill it with actual loot. Let's give them a bunch of bulky items that have value to the merchant if you're selling it, but not so much if if you're the treasure seeker. Is what it is. Tack and harness, transport, miscellaneous equipment, lots of nice items and additional things to consider. Weapons, a bunch of new ones, new because of the setting kind of thing, and old ones, the traditional old ones, various options for prices, right? Equipment descriptions, of course, going into detail. That fills quite a few spots. We got binding a genie in servitude. Genies in of themselves are kind of unique, not so much that they're rare and unique in the AD&D settings, because they're in the monster manuals. You can use them in quite a different way, but in this particular environment, this particular genre, they are dominant. They're the most common or not so common magic being you're likely to encounter that ain't outright trying to kill you. And although genies will do that, genies are very complicated, wheels within wheels. There's a lot of elements to them, and you can apply them quite judiciously and quite craftily in many ways. Recognizing genie work, calling upon the djinn, elemental protection, calling a genie, binding a genie into servitude. Always a tricky thing to do. No, not unlike trying to bind a demon or a devil to your servitude. There's real risks involved, especially the higher level ones you get. Creating a genie prison, elemental travel, receiving an audience with the genie court, the shahirs and task genies. Then we get chapter 8, wizard spells. So we get a whole lot of new wizard spells or rework spells from older versions that are suited for the environment, right? Avert the evil eye, alter normal winds, fire truth, cool strength, sand quiet, move sand shimmer, traceless travel, sea slight, wind compass. That's something to keep in mind when we talk about the Arabian Night kind of campaign. It's a desert theme, lots and lots of dry land, desert land. But if you look at the region, they're surrounded by oceans and waterways, and so the water is just as much of if you look at ancient Egypt, for example, water was the lifeblood of Egypt. And all of its creation because of the Nile and this dependence on the Nile for everything. So having water-based material and spells and items goes quite in hand with the desert theme, right? Enlarged desert creature, depth warning, dust curtains, flying Jimbia, which is a flying magic weapon, pillar sand, fire arrows, third level spells, walls against noise, converse with sea creatures, reveal invisible, sand sword, hissing sand, whispering sand, wind shadow, conjuring a sand lion, mirage wall, shatter hall, sun warp, sunfire, lots of magic and lots of powerful stuff, right? Life level spells, life of water, sand form, wind tomb. All right, then we get into the glossary. Like I said, this is a very good book, and I intend to put this back in the bathroom because I want to go back and reread it again because there's so many nuances in it, and it takes me back to my younger age and an age when I had a lot more fun with I had regular group back in the day. We met on a couple times a month, and life wasn't, we were all married or getting married or process of divorcing and having kids, and things were changing, and one by one we drifted apart. Life became, we had to deal with our families and work, and there just wasn't as much time, and we didn't make the effort. I think part of that fell on me, part of it fell on others. Such as life. you know, I keep saying I got 8 years. I'm 59. I have 8 years before I'm eligible for Social Security, and I fully intend to retire when I can, assuming there's something there to retire with. And from there, I would devote a day a week of going to one of these local game stores and sitting at a table and looking pathetic and keeping busy until I can, find a group or create a group, draw in a group of people. I've also considered going to one or two of the local community centers. A lot of people go there when they got nothing else better to do. So, that's an option. It is kind of what it is. Till next time, I'm me, you're you. Hope you guys have a great set of holidays. I don't know how soon I'll get posted with this posted. I hope to post this sooner rather than later. Thanksgiving is this weekend, or Thursday, excuse me. And then we got following Christmas and New Year's coming up, and then it's the end of the year, and a new year starts. Good, bad, and the ugly, right? Hope you guys have yourself a good set of holidays. I know things are a little more stressful this year than usual. Prices just keep going up and up. Ironically, I'm doing better now than I was a year ago. Financially, we're doing okay. We're not in debt. We have our debts, but we paid off a number of those last year. And so, plus I had my raise. More importantly, my health insurance improved. I was able to get out from under the ACA, which I would have had to drop it anyway. I would not be able to pay the doubled rates that they hit us with. The new company has Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they cover it 70% of it, 75% of it based on our age, right? So I pay more than younger guys do. But I'm paying $67 a week, about $280 a month for my health care. And what makes that feasible is that the deductible for that amount is $5,200, which is almost 4,000 less than what it was last year using the ACA's Medica. But more importantly, the community, uh, the local county hospital has a program called Community Cares, and they readjusted their ceiling for how much you could make. And so even with that $3 raise that I was given back in March, which has really helped us a lot, although it's compensated by the fact I do not get nearly the hours that I was doing at All Clean at my previous job, which is also a benefit in a way, because it's hard for me. I do these long 12-hour days, and they're brutal. It's harder to do them. Yeah, I mean, it really is. Uh, you go to bed and you get up in the morning, I feel like I've been mugged. My shoulders hurt, my back hurts, my body aches. No matter what I do, middle of the night I get up, take two or three freaking Advil or Tylenol or whatever, trying to mediate that, but just getting old. And then so not working the weird hours, still trying to adjust that. Been a long time since March, and I'm still having to adjust to that fact that I'm not working very many weekends anymore. I'm not working nights at all. I tried my damnedest to avoid any split shifts if I can. I hold them to that. Most of my jobs involve outside jobs, which means I'm not not getting down on my knees and getting up and wrestling with that all day, which which getting harder to do. My knees are shot. It is what it is. But the community care program raised the ceiling on its rates, and so we were still covered 100%, which means when I go to the doctor's office, whatever the insurance doesn't cover, it goes to that deductible. Well, the community cares pays that deductible. All right. For an example, I had my last doctor's appointment, or it was the dental appointment, 600 and some dollars, out of which $80 would have been my co-payment. What I would have had to pay was $80. But the bill they sent me said this is not a bill because Community Cares covered the $80. Really makes it so I got health care and I'm only paying $288 a month for it, and I'm not being bankrupted by it, unlike a lot of people out there, for which I'm really, really grateful. Anyhow, till next time, you guys have a good weekend, good holiday.